The Grudge, or The Grudge 2020, or The Grudge 4, or The Grudge Reloaded, Grudge Hard or Grudge Home, is a new The Grudge. Apparently, it's a horror. So I'll need to give a bit of a setup as to why I'm reviewing this one. Some people might be like, oh, why didn't you go see Rise of Skywalker? It was so bad. Rip that apart. Well, in terms of terrible films I'm going to waste my time on, the new Grudge wins because... First of all, I wanted to start getting into different types of horror. Japanese horror is something I'm very unfamiliar with, and so, to start going down that rabbit hole, I decided, you know what? With the new The Grudge coming out, I'll watch the original Japanese Ju-On The Grudge and the Grudge America in preparation for the new The Grudge. Honestly, call it anything else but the first movie in the franchise again, and we wouldn't have this The joke, which I'll continue to use throughout this video. Just like the new Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Speaking of The Conjuring, this movie has the nun priest guy in it. Also, Lin Shaye from Insidious. Another James Wan connection. And essentially the plot of this movie is, have you seen these movies? So imagine these, with an overall sense that it was a Japanese property remade by Americans to bank on the success of The Ring. And now they are making this new soulless, bland remake, rehashing, sort of sequel, expanded universe product to hold on to the pending rights because it's been over 10 years since the previous installment bombed. I sort of have a weird perspective on these movies, seeing as I was completely unfamiliar with the Grudge story. Watching the Japanese original followed directly by the American remake, that right there gives me these conflicting feelings about this as a whole, also including the new movie. But I'm going to go over my thoughts in this first segment. Just want to state before I get into this, I am only going off of what I've seen. Ju-On The Grudge from 2004, and the new The Grudge from 2020. So I'm probably going to get a lot of lore and stuff wrong. I know there are movies before Ju-On The Grudge, but I guess they weren't good enough to have a remake 2 years later? I don't know. I also haven't seen any of the original Japanese sequels or the American remake sequels. I'm only sticking to movies called The Grudge. So that's the context and perspective I'm coming from. So beginning my voyage into Japanese horror, we have Ju-On The Grudge. I have a lot of positives with this one. Despite coming out in 2002, it actually felt like an older classic style horror film. One thing I liked is that it actually starts off strong. Grainy black and white footage of a mysterious grisly murder. A lady, kid, and cat are killed. We get shots of that house that will take center stage for the rest of the movie. A bit more scary than Bill Pullman rolling off of a balcony. Next is the setup of a new welfare worker taking over the care for an elderly woman living in the same house. When she arrives, the house is a mess. The old woman is being all scary and quiet, and after a missed opportunity for an 80s cleaning montage,
how do you like that, man?
the worker discovers a taped up dresser. Upon opening it, she finds a kid that's been cut up and locked away. Sooner or later, she returns to attend the old woman, and a shit-your-pants spooky demon ghost is hovering above the old lady. And then my problem with the movie begins. And this entire movie's gimmick outside of is jumping around the timeline, like Pulp Fiction times 3, and I don't understand the language. So, every time it cuts to a new lady walking into the house, I kept getting distracted of whether or not this is a new character or the same character from a different time in history. And it was a bit confusing to keep track of who's who and why to care. My only issue with the movie. The overall horror and ideas are effective. The Grudge noise is undeniably a great horror movie staple. But overall, from a linear timeline, a family is murdered in a house, people go into the house and go bleh. Other people go into the house and go bleh. And everyone that ever goes into that house goes bleh. But they need to cut up and rearrange all these incidences is what takes away from the film, in my opinion. Had it been linear, it would just be scenes one by one of people going into the house and going bleh. It would be like 4 short films set in the same house. I can understand all the timeline jumping to build on a mystery, but I don't know. I have a suspicion that this is how the book is structured, and the film sticks a little too closely to the book. But this sort of brings me to my follow-up issue, the remake. Now, after seeing the original, I kept thinking, how are they going to rework the narrative for American audiences? How will they restructure this to be different? So it turns out the remake is just the same film beat for beat, give or take a Buffy and some culture clash, which kind of makes it a hard one to have an opinion on, being the exact same movie with famous Americans in it, and the only thing different is all-round more expensive filmmaking. They brought over the same director of the original, so it has this weird thing where you're just clocking scenes from the original up until the ending that makes less sense. The only thing I liked in the remake is where in the original, they open up yet another side plot in time with these girls in high school that get begrudged. This movie replaces that section with actual exposition of what the hell is going on. Where the original is just, person goes into the house and goes bleh. Other people go in the house and go bleh. This movie dedicates this moment to showing the backstory to the Grudge ghost and properly lays it all out. And that's why I feel the American remake could have taken this opportunity to maybe cut out some characters and streamline the plot a bit more. In my opinion, there just isn't enough time to develop all the characters. And when you're starting to get invested in one of the characters, then it cuts back to another time with different characters and you're like, oh yeah, other people. And the only real person you care about is Ted Raimi. Oh no, not my Ted Raimi. Every time he dies in a movie, part of me dies. You're all probably wondering, hey, Caudry Effects, The Grudge 2020 doesn't actually come out in Australia till the 30th of January. How did you see it so early? Well, all I can say to that is, up to 300% gambling bonus, unlimited multiplication of money, slots, sports, poker. Visit now! Now, the reason most of this review so far has been a recap of the original and the American remake is because this is a soft reboot, starting again, hence no number in the title. This movie being a sequel to the first The Grudge, the movie, is just as hacky and pathetic as The Curse of La Llorona being a part of the Conjuring universe. The whole thing has no connection, except for the priest in the movie that was like, I played with the Annabelle doll once. This movie follows the priest from The Nun, although not connected. And he, or his partner, or someone else is like, this reminds me of a case from Japan, and shows the photo of the house from the first one. So, with your explanation as to how this is a sequel out of the way, it doesn't matter at all because this is a new American The Grudge. The first remake was a shameless rehashing. This movie can be nothing but pure originality. Get ready for a new twist, a new vision, a new multi-jumping timeline kid that goes... Detectives working on the case to solve the mystery of who died, some people looking after a mental old woman, ending where you think they all made it out alive due to some rule that doesn't feel like it was set up properly, and then give us a sequel please! Now this movie takes place over 3 timelines, 2004, 2005, 2006 I think, and it mostly works in reverse. We got a young rookie cop and nun priest cop investigating a corpse in a car in a forest. Lin Shaye is nuts and her husband gets Jackie Weaver to hypnotize her into being normal or something. Another side story is Harold and Kumar and his pregnant wife are trying to sell a house that has a mysterious kid in it. And essentially there was a murder at this house before all of this. And they all didn't live happily ever after. And just like the original and the first remake, once you start investing in one story, it cuts to the next. But this one feels like it has less time for you to get invested. Like 2 to 3 short scenes each. This movie would have benefited from just the cop lady investigating one death scenario from the house. Lin Shaye and Jackie Weaver's side story felt pointless. It just felt like the original had the crazy old person, gotta do it again. There was something interesting about a real estate couple trying to sell a haunted house. Nothing done with it. Although this is where they shove in the pointless hand in the hair while showering imagery. Fucking wow. Gotta have it.
Remember the Grudge with the fingers in the hair? Oh yeah, I named it.
So this movie had a moment that made me burst into tears laughing. Nun priest cop guy had a partner who went into the house and got begrudged, played by William Sadler. In one of the earlier timelines, he couldn't hack it and shoots himself in the face. And spoilers, turns out he's still alive and new cop lady goes to see him because she's working the case. And she goes into the mental hospital and they reveal his face. And the only point of reference I can give as to what it looks like is this. They were probably going for this, but it ended up looking like this. And that leads me to my next major problem with this movie. Sure, not all horror movies need gore and violence to tell an effective, scary story. But in this film, they keep building up to something bad happening, got their Grudge noise going, but then it cuts to the aftermath. Grudge demon is approaching, but nah. Oh nah, someone died at some point. Ah well, and after watching all The Grudge first movies in a row, this is the time to change up the formula. It's like it unenthusiastically puts in the Grudge cliches, but then follows it up with nothing. Just And it's just frustrating these days when it's just the copy and paste horror formula of jump scares and the McDonald's cartoon evil demon child character. Everything around these scenes are just boring dialogue scenes with the music that's meant to tell you what to feel. I lost someone once. Yeah, I've been doing this a long time. It doesn't get any easier. I've been looking to retire. I can't wait to have the baby. I never wanted a child, but now that I'm having one, I love them so much with all my heart. It's not delivered yet. What? We'll get through this. I love you. I love you too. Ah. Bleh noise. And then the movie ends. The cop lady has a revelation, and I swear it does the Saw twist montage with the flashes and the footage and everything has that gross green and blue color grade. And then there's some twist about she had to close her eyes and count to 5, but she didn't close her eyes, and that's what stuffs up the curse rules. I swear the ending to the original Nightmare on Elm Street is no longer the most worthless way to end a horror movie anymore. So the director of this movie has expressed interest in a sequel and a potential crossover of the American The Grudge and the American The Ring. Well, seeing as both this and the previous Rings earned blockbusting scores such as these, yeah, prob's not gonna happen, hey. Wow, 23% each. Also, what do you call it? Grudge versus Ring? The Grudge versus The Ring? How do they fight each other or do they team up and kill other people? If you watch the Ring video and walk into the Grudge house, will you be like double dead or does it cancel out the curses? What if the Ring girl and Grudge boy fall in love and when they touch, they kill each other, which forms a super sad grudge? Or does that cancel out the grudge? Oh, well. See, crossover movie wouldn't work. Not all versus movies can be as perfect and wonderful as Freddy vs. Jason, or Mega Shark vs. Croctopus, or Ford vs. Ferrari. So, this movie has been out in America for the past few weeks. It's bombed. I don't recommend it. And my official rating is 1 pinata filled with money. And my overall thoughts on The Grudge as a whole is mixed. The original had some good elements in it, but there was a lot I just didn't connect with. But the remake is so soulless and just a recreation of the Japanese one. I have no perspective. Do I only like the Japanese one despite its problems, and the remake is an expensive rehashing? Or should I have watched the American one first with the English speaking, and then watch the Japanese one with perspective and be like, well, they sure did pay homage, didn't they? All I know is that this new one is pointless jump scare garbage, and it's just the same shit. Now I have a grudge. Just a quick update. I recently just learnt while editing this that there is a Grudge vs. Ring movie from Japan, and yeah, it's kind of as silly as I thought. They even have a moment where both demons DNA digivolve together.
Part War Greymon, part Metal Garurumon. They digivolve together to become Omnimon.
And so yeah, the American one will probably be a bit more realistic and gritty, but I fucking dare you, America, make this movie just like that. I dare you. The Ring vs. The Grudge, coming out Halloween 2021.